друзья, прежде чем продолжим, напомню о наших замечательных партнерах. Огромное им за это спасибо. Акимату города Алматы, Управлению цифровизации, Агентству США по международному развитию USAID, Европейскому банку реконструкции и развития, Freedom Broker, Международному технопарку Астана Хаб, мировому лидеру индустрии цифровых платежей компании Visa, международной финансовой корпорации, члены группы Всемирного банка, Chevron, Impact Hub Алматы, KCell, агентство инноваций и цифрового развития Азербайджана, компания Паша Холдинг, казахстанская криптобиржа Caspian X, Тумар Venture Fund, The Ultimate Visionary Group, Most Инкубатор и Умай. Отдельное спасибо нашим медиапартнерам, цифровые издания Digital Business, The Tech, Ертен, The Kazakhstan Monitor, Blue Screen, We Project, телеграм-канал Finance Cast, университет КМЭП и самая продвинутая бизнес-медиа «Бизнес-номады». Итак, мы переходим к следующей сессии, которая закрывает здесь очень насыщенный день, но мне кажется, какой-то усталости я не ощущаю. Может быть, чуть-чуть она физическая, но мозг, чем больше мы его расширяем, тем больше растет количество нейронных связей, и тем больше информации мы можем усваивать дальше. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, last session will start in 1 minute. It's about big investment ideas worth chasing. With as moderator, CEO of Most Ventures, manager partner of Most Holding, Alim Hamitov. Also, I'd like to invite to this stage Vice Chairman of Henley Partners, Hью Морсхед, founder and principal of the Pentaran Group, Дэвид Халперт, partner of Vitosha Venture Partners, Макс Гурвиц, investment director at TMT Investments, Леван Кавтарадзе, founding partner and CEO in Algorithm Capital, Кадыржон Норов. Dear guests, dear speakers, please welcome to the stage. And Alim. Okay, great.
Okay. Hello, everyone, again. This is one of the last sessions we have. By the way, yes, we have 2 in parallel on other stages, but I think this is one of the coolest. Since the guests that we have here so diverse, all practitioners, all investors, and yeah, thank you guys for being here, so welcome. So my name is Alim Hamitov. I'm the co-founder of Most and the CEO of Most Ventures. I have a pleasure to moderate the session about big ideas. I think the whole thing about VC is about big ideas, big markets. And as I said, as I know from the background, I think that my guests will tell us more now about the background, but I know that some of them, maybe all of them, actually started from angels and end up to have their own traction story as a funds, as investors. So I think that it's not the best way when the moderator usually says who are here as a guest. So I would ask to, yeah, just one by one to say about your background and introduce yourself. I know that Levan and David, right? You have presentations? Yeah. We prepared, and yeah, so we have 2 guests who are gonna give us the presentation, his introduction, and yeah, others, it's up to you. Okay? So, yeah, Levan, please. Do you have a clicker, by the way?
Sure.
Кликер можно будет, да? Кликер. Сергей, можно кликер? So, while we're preparing, yeah, the first is our guest, Levan. I think that the guys, when you see here's a TMT Investments, right?
Yeah, TMT Investments.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Okay, while we are waiting, I would say that I suppose that most of the audience know about the internet, at least startup, since I know that some startups were seeking for funding from specifically TMT Investments. Okay, stage is yours.
Is it working? Yes, it's working. Cool. Okay. Hello, guys. My name is Levan. I'm an investment director at TMT Investments, PLC. So I'm also a business angel and mentor in some startups. But in TMT Investments, I manage pipeline. So what we are and what we're doing. Actually, TMT Investments is a venture investing company. We've been working for 12 years on the market. We are quite a rare organization because we are a public venture fund. We are listed on the LSE, the London Stock Exchange, and invested in almost sharp 100 companies so far. So I'll just show about several slides about us. Something about our process. So yeah, we actually inspected a lot of startups, 15,000 or something, just very rude assumptions, invested in almost 100 companies. It's 97 to be sharp, and 300 of them are still on our radar. What does it mean? It means that if you're too early for us, so we put you on the radar, we meet you, we follow your traction, and in a year, maybe half a year or 2 years, we can invest. So this is quite a lively pipeline, so we always follow on our the most interesting companies we see. So just something about our traction. Yes. For 12 years, we invested almost a bit more than $100 million, and you can see that almost $100 million we already received as cash exits, and something like $200,000 million, yeah, still in our portfolio. So something about 300 in total, and only 20 million we lost. So out of 100 companies, something like 22, 25 died within 12 years, which is quite a good ratio for a venture. So whom we invest in? We usually invest in Series A companies at different sectors, a bit different profile. And you can see some well-known names here. It's our portfolio, different by segment. You can see OneFeet. Yes, OneFeet is our portfolio company. It's also my personal portfolio company. I'm an angel investor there. And in TMT, we invested in OneFeet and fully satisfied with the guys. They're super cool. You can also see PandaDoc. Many of you use them for your documental transactions. And probably many of you know Bolt. Bolt is a ride-hailing aggregator. So they are very active in Europe and in 500 cities all over the world. We invested in them when they were a super small company in Estonia, the seed round, maybe a bit later than seed. And this investment grew many times. So now they're $8 billion company, funded by top tier players in the world. And yeah, we are super satisfied with them. Just some cases out of our portfolio. Bolt, yes, they grew more than 200 times. Another cool exit is Pipedrive. It was an Estonian company, a CRM for salespeople. Grew 50 times. We sold them, and yeah, that was the best exit so far. PandaDoc already grew super cool, and they are a unicorn as well. And Rike, so Rike was an American-based project management software. So first four out of this list are unicorns, and we were the first investors there, which is quite a good ratio for 100 companies invested. So I think, yeah, one of probably the most important thing how to estimate success of our portfolio. So these names, they invested in our companies after us. So you can see Andreessen Horowitz, Bain Capital, Sequoia, Scale Ventures, Didi is Chinese Uber, SoftBank, Mobado, so all well-known companies. So they joined our portfolio companies after TMT. So quite a good story, I think. So that's just in brief about us. Thank you. I'm here today and tomorrow, so if you have some proposals, I'm also always happy to review. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Levan. Great presentation, great overview. Thanks. David?
Okay. All right.
Можно вторую, да, презентацию?
Okay.
Is it?
Okay, so big ideas. This is my big idea. 5 presidents of Central Asian countries were in China a couple of days ago meeting Xi Jinping. Whether you like it or not, the Chinese are coming. And everyone in Kazakhstan needs a plan. And that's my big idea. Second big idea, this railway, I know we've been talking about it for about 25 years. I think it's under construction, and it's going to change a lot of things here. And I'm trying to get more information about what the expected delivery date is. It's not easy to work with the Afghans, as you know, but I think this is going to impact a lot of businesses here and a lot of businesses, of course, in your neighbors. Third big idea, actually, Moscow is quite far away, and there are no Chinese people in this conference. Fourth big idea, the dollar, I think, is kind of breaking down, and so crypto, I think, is interesting again, and gold is very interesting. Fifth big idea, look at Southeast Asia. I live in Indonesia. I lived in Singapore for many years. I think what's going on there is actually more relevant for Central Asia than what's going on in Europe and America and Japan and whatever. And some of the business models that are successful there, I think, are going to be successful here. Can NASDAQ break out to a new high? I think that's very important for all of us. My guess is it doesn't break out to a new high, so we have to plan for cash flows and things like that. AI is really important and fabulous. These 3 companies between them are worth like $5 trillion, and you got locals here raising money and no one is paying attention to them. And so I think that actually this is a really interesting time for AI in Central Asia, and that's my ideas.
Great. It's not just an introduction, right? It was a lot of insights and ideas to share. Thanks. Great. Okay, Hugh? It's up to you guys. You can see it, you can...
Okay, so my name is Hugh Morshead. I work actually for Henley Partners. I'm based in Dubai. Our function in life is actually finding investors to wish to apply for government programs for residence or citizenship. There isn't a program at the moment in any government where VC is a particular type of investment. But I'm here as part from anything else because I find it a really interesting topic. I'm a non-executive director of 2 private equity funds, and I've been a seed investor in a variety of different projects, some which worked and some of which haven't. I think my big idea, as we're now starting talking about some big ideas, is I'd like, as an individual, to actually think small first, and then make sure that it has traction and has relevance. And for that, for me, my big idea is to get really good, proper research done to know what the skills are in the various jurisdictions where there is a concentration of VC activity. Whether or not that is a function of the education and the sponsorship of getting academics to produce new ideas that can be put into practice and money made from them, or alternatively, attracting external investors to actually to invest in, for in this case, Euro-Asian centres where they've got an excellent flow of deals and for ideas for trading. So those are my bigger ideas. I know that they're sort of rather woolly, but I also think it's true that it's really helpful to work out what you think you should do using the skills and the resources you've got. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Hugh. Okay. Max, yeah.
Good. I'm next. Hi. I'm not going to get up. My name is Max Gurvitz. Big pleasure to be back in Almaty. I'm one of those people who stumbled into venture capital and entrepreneurship without ever planning for it. Graduated as a lawyer, worked even in the European government for about a year, ran away because it's government, of course. And then as things happened with a flatmate of mine, we, in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands where I'm from, we launched this startup that did online legal services, both of us being lawyers by training. That kind of took off. After the company got sold, I started looking around for new things to do. And the idea to help other people do startups was kind of on my mind. I didn't know yet, about accelerators or incubators or venture capital funds, but I guess I got lucky in the sense that it was right the time, about 12, almost 15 years ago now actually, when this whole thing was taking off in Europe, and I decided to set up shop in a country that I liked very much but knew very little about at that time, Bulgaria. And since then I've been, my biggest luck was actually that I was able to play a part in the creation of a very, very inspiring venture capital ecosystem. Bulgaria is a small country in Europe. It's actually the least wealthy still country in the European Union. And that's a good thing, if you ask me. I mean, we're getting wealthier, but it's the excitement of being there when things are happening is really big. And we were, able to kickstart a venture ecosystem, which, was literally zero, nothing almost, 15 years ago, let's say. And today, we have over 16 venture capital funds. We have about 25,000 people, somewhere in that order of magnitude, who work in venture-backed companies. We have, these so-called unicorns, well, one official, whatever, several soonicorns, as they call them in the media. I personally don't like that metric. I don't really care about it, what people pay for equity. But the fact is that we do have a really cool community, and it was wonderful to be part of that. In my day job, I'm a venture capital investor. I run a fund focused mostly on Bulgaria and the Southeast European region called Vitosha Venture Partners. But also because of my, probably partially because of my roots, partially because of my natural curiosity. I do work also here in Central Asia as part of the USAID FGI team as an expert. We work together with the International Finance Corporation, where I'm also a venture ecosystem expert. And I get to visit, this region and the cities and meet everyone. And it's a very big privilege. So I'm very happy to be here with everyone again. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Max. Thanks. And Kadjun?
Hi. I'm Kadirjan Norov. Last year I founded a private equity firm, Algorithm Capital. It's focused on Central Asia plus Azerbaijan, but with the main focus on Uzbekistan. So that's where I'm from. I was born in the ancient city of Bukhara, been living in Tashkent, and now for the last year and a half been based in Vienna. The focus of the fund is to invest into retail sector, so there are a lot of interesting brands that are coming up in the FMCG area, and to invest into the retailers, to invest into the pharma companies, to invest into the financial sector. But these are not, I know we are at the Venture Forum, we're also going to invest into technology companies, but more mature stage. So we'll be looking at companies that already generate revenue, that generate close to profitability, already profitable, and have history of sustainable operations. So one of the reasons why I founded this fund is to make it easy for investors who've been hearing about all the progress that's taking place in the region, especially in Uzbekistan. In 2016 we had a change in the presidentship, and since then a lot of reforms have been taking place. Many people want to get exposure, but it's very difficult not to crack. So we want to create an instrument that will be very friendly. With a minimum investment of $500,000, you can get an exposure to this growth that's happening in the country and participate in really exciting companies to which we have access, because for the last 20 years I've been doing investment banking. My investment bank, Avest Investment Group, is the most active and the largest investment banking firm in the country. We've done the most of the M&A deals, of the IPOs in the capital markets, research. We've actually, some of the gentlemen sitting here are my clients from Avesta. Yep. So we know the market. We've done the M&A. We know what companies are attractive to future buyers, and we will want to get into those companies before they're bought by Polish pharmaceutical companies, by Kazakh retailers, by Kazakh brands. We want to get in there, hopefully with your money before that. So I've also done entrepreneurship. I've set up an online food delivery business. I invest myself as an angel investor, and I've done some buyouts. I bought and sold recently the insurance company. I had an outdoor billboard business, all kinds of measures, but I'll be happy to talk to you after that.
Great. Thank you, guys. Actually, kind of diverse introduction, which is a lot of thoughts. Good. So, I got some questions for all of you, and the audience, please be attentive. So, at the end, I'll be happy to take some questions from the audience. So, the whole session is about big ideas. But by the way, we have a lot of startups here. So, as VCs, would love to see these big ideas from there, right? So my question, the first question actually, we are in emerging market. We're in the emerging market. I usually state that, Startup Genome, the Washington-based, I think, company where they usually do the research, how the ecosystem develops. And for us, as a most, we have been doing this for like 10 years, but they told us recently, you are still on the activation stage, guys, okay? You are still emerging, you're still starting. So it's always good to hear experiences of people who really actually believe in emerging markets. So my question actually for David, I know that you are angel, you're a professional angel, you are chief investment officer in Prince Street Capital. And what I find out, you started in early 2000, right? 2001.
2001.
Great. So what it means, so you are focused on emerging market, right? You invested in Gojek, one of the leading super apps. So my question actually for you is, what do you think? What is all about the emerging markets? Any advantages of it, and what kind of sectors or maybe industries you see which will give more kind of investment opportunities in the current VC situation? So,
Okay, so I've recently had a change of employment. And I dissolved Prince Street Capital, and now I run Panetone, which is my family office. Unfortunately, American institutions are still taking capital away from emerging markets. Fortunately for Central Asia, they didn't have any money here to take away. So they never came here in the first place, so you're fine. But if you look at how China, for example, is trading, it's pretty tough. So I've kind of gotten out of the emerging markets business, and now I'm more in the Central Asia or Southeast Asia or Africa business, which I think is protected from that. In terms of sectors, obviously fintech and e-commerce have had a huge allocation of capital, including from some people who maybe didn't do as much homework as would have been ideal. Back to your comment. So I think what Hodor just said about looking at things like pharma and retail makes a lot of sense. And I'm also interested in mining, which is not ESG and all that, but Kazakhstan, last time I checked, had quite a lot of minerals. So maybe that's worth thinking about also. But what I see in Indonesia specifically, and I did want to mention this also, Indonesia has done an amazing job of leveraging its mineral wealth to build an industrial base. And because Indonesians don't speak English that well, this isn't really getting enough attention in the media, but I've been to the industrial estates that Indonesia has built in the east. I think there are only 5 or 10 Americans who've actually been to these places. they employ 77,000 people at one site and 55,000 people at the other site. And these isolated, backward jurisdictions in the Republic are now the single largest sources of tax revenue for the Republic. So Indonesia has leveraged its resource wealth to build $140 billion of foreign exchange reserves. And this has all happened in the last 10 years. So given that I'm on a stage in Kazakhstan, I think this is relevant. Yeah. And they've done it in part by engaging with the Chinese in a very constructive way. So there's a very beautiful woman I know in Jakarta with her own airplane. And her job is she works China for the government of Indonesia. And that's a very high return airplane for the people of Indonesia. So that would be another thing to mention. I said this in other Central Asian countries too.
Okay. But by the way, I read that you're encouraging to what is called digital decolonization concept. Yeah.
Absolutely. I
so
actually,
can you elaborate on that?
Yeah,
what it is?
I trademarked digital decolonization. And I came up with this talking with the founder of Gojek, who's a good friend of mine, and is an amazing guy. And people who look like him aren't supposed to be tech founders, because tech founders are supposed to be white guys. And it turns out that actually Asian people can start startups, but that was not consensus 10 years ago. So digital decolonization is the idea that startups like these guys here can compete with global or, God forbid, Russian and Chinese startups, or I mean, digital enterprises that want to come into this country. And of course, you know, Telegram is fantastic, and I really don't think we need a Kazakh national messaging app. I think that would be a bad idea. You probably don't need a Kazakh national search engine. But you now have a Kazakh national e-commerce company, and apparently it's doing a really good job because I keep seeing their machines all over the place. And that's, to me, very interesting. And I think we can see similar startups develop here into meaningful enterprises that will provide jobs, services, returns, value to people in this country. And when I think about how many Indonesians, for example, missed out on Gojek because they didn't believe their own venture capital ecosystem, and instead wound up losing money in Tesla or Uber over time, I think it's really unfortunate. And we faced a lot of criticism at Gojek. How come this company belongs to foreigners? Well, the reason why it belonged to foreigners is that Indonesians didn't want to buy it. And I'm afraid that's a risk here as well. You know, Kaspi is not listed here. It's listed, you know, in some English country.
Yep.
I don't know why anyone would want to go there, but weather's horrible. But if you don't have a mentality of believing in your own people, you're vulnerable to successive waves of colonization. And I think events like CEVF or the 17 others that I've been to around the world, you know, they're important in signaling to domestic investors and domestic professionals and domestic service providers and domestic regulators that actually local people can do this stuff.
Okay.
And it's not consensus still. And I really enjoyed, I was just in your neighboring countries talking to startup people, and your comments about Bulgaria, you know, very similar. I'm sure that everyone in Bulgaria thought that Bulgarians can't do tech. when actually half the coding teams in Europe are staffed up with Bulgarians and Romanians. And then you have once these ecosystems take off, they become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot. I hope that a lot of ideas were there, but still, the term that we're not worse, that our founders can really create great projects and they can really scale and they can be competitive. I will elaborate that it's not about China and Russia, by the way. It's about the worldwide, right? You can be competitive worldwide, just no fears, just go and try it. Thanks a lot. Yeah. My next question is to Max. Actually, I see Max more often in Central Asia than in Bulgaria, I would say. So, which is good. I really admire what Max is doing. So, Max, my question is for you. Like you said, Bulgaria is emerging, right? Still, I would say maybe more advanced for sure than what we have here. But again, you're focusing on emerging market. You're actually helping here. You're transferring the knowledge and expertise. So the question is kind of two things. So the first one is, based on the experience of developing Bulgaria ecosystem, what kind of lessons learned you think that we can take off here? And the second one is, I remember recently you were even in Turkmenistan, and it was an investment forum. Investors were there, the government was there. So what do you think in general? What is the potential? Since we're here, I would love to highlight it, and I would love to hear your side overview. What do you think? What should be next one? What is the potential here?
Here as in Central Asia, not just
Central
Turkmenistan,
Asia,
right?
Central Asia, yeah. But firstly
Right.
from Bulgaria.
Well, look, those are actually big questions, so I'll be very brief because other people on the panel as well. I mean, what is, the first question was what the...
Bulgaria, lessons learned, let's say.
Lessons
learned,
right. Lessons learned from Eastern Europe. You know, it's hard to put it into a couple of words only. I think the biggest lesson learned for everyone is it's the empowerment lesson, right? That you can do it. That it takes time, right? You know, it's easier probably to understand metaphorically. One thing that I keep telling everyone in Eastern Europe, and particularly in Bulgaria, but you know, Bulgaria is still kind of okay because Bulgaria is in the European Union, it's in NATO, you know, it's a country that has really good positive dynamics. But when you look at the Western Balkans, for instance, our neighboring countries there, you know, the former Yugoslavia, the countries that have this historical, you know, load that they carry that kind of doesn't allow them to move forward as quickly as we would all want to. You know, the stories I always tell are the stories of, you know, countries like the Netherlands who were, you know, Norway or Ireland, countries that only 40, 50, 60 years ago were also quite poor. And who made this progress by, you know, basically putting in very consistent, very you know, right policies, some policies that even hurt in the beginning, policies that are hard to do sometimes in the beginning, but actually that pay off in the long term. So the consistency part is very important. And, you know, in the Balkans, in Bulgaria, people love to complain like, oh my God, you know, time goes by and all the kids are leaving and nobody's coming back and everybody's dying, you know. But the truth is, if you look at our economies, we grow so hard. Like Bulgaria has grown literally twice in any indicator of the last 10 years. GDP per capita, you know, spending power, you name it, it's all grown double. But if you ask the people, you know, things are not so good, you know. So I think, you know, what's really important, maybe this is kind of the lesson, and it's kind of a very philosophical one. It's not a specific thing, but it's to understand that, you know, if we compare with the West, where we're here right now in Central Asia is a super good time. We're somewhere in the late 50s, early 60s of what it was for the West, right? This is just the beginning. You guys, all of you here, especially the young people, will be looking back at this time as like, oh, that was the golden youth. That was the time when everything just started. We were so naive. We didn't know what was coming at us. And I think that this is, you know, this little bit of positivity that I can share and that I know I'm right. I know that 30 years later you'll be telling me, you see, I was right about it. That's one thing. You know, specifically for Central Asia, I think that, you know, and I'll do this very briefly as well, but you know, you guys have a huge resource here that we don't have, that almost no one in the world has, well, except maybe some countries in Africa. Even there, I'm not so sure. You guys, like, I just looked up yesterday for a thing that I'm writing, and in every single Central Asian country, the population curve goes up like this, right? Like some countries have doubled over the last 30 years. Most countries are up 50, 60, 70% in population. This is unheard of. Like the single biggest problem we have in Europe is the fact that we don't have people. Like right now in Bulgaria, our problem is that we have so much going on in the economy, there's not enough people to do it. There's more business than there are people who can do the business. And it sounds like a luxury problem, but it's not a cool problem to have. It's a terrible problem, right? This is the one thing that Central Asia can, like, if you guys in these countries focus on education, on predictability of policies, on making sure that people stay. Now with the shit show going on with Russia, it's a great time to stop going there and actually stay here and do things here, right? So this I think that for both for the business and for the government communities, it's very important to seize the human resource aspect, and whether it's building more venture opportunities, building funding options, creating more programs, learning programs, acceleration programs for startups. Those are all things that are good to do and they're right. But I think that focus should be there. We have this unique. Every country has to ask itself what's unique. The Ireland did it with the English language. They had nothing else. It's a barren island. Nobody needed it. But they spoke English, and they used that to become the gateway for American companies to Europe, but that's how they became rich and successful. Estonia, did it with this whole IT thing that they hammered on. Every country has its own angle. I think that Central Asia is this massive amount of young people that can be an army, for the good. So that's for me.
Great. Yeah. Thanks a lot. I think some applause. Yeah, it was some insights. Yeah, you know what? I really admire that you actually raised two things. The first one is brain drain, I suppose. Even in Almaty, not Almaty, in Kazakhstan, that's what we know. In the last 5 years, we lost up to 300K young people. And if you look at the profile of these people, it's one of the, let's say, smartest one, even with international education, all the stuff. So they came, tried something, didn't work out, they left. So this is the problem. And it's a problem, I think, for all of us. I mean, for the ecosystem specifically, and for the government. Yeah. Okay. It was really insightful. Yeah. Thanks a lot. We actually plan to do more with Max for the region. It's not about Asia, but also Central Eurasia. Okay. My next question to Levin. Actually, Levin is the investment director in TMT Investments. We saw your portfolio. Actually, I have two questions. Since you're as investment director, you look so many pitches, right? So many startups.
Oh, I don't know.
So our session is all big ideas, but sometimes it's like to differentiate is one of the challenges, good idea and great idea, right? So what do you think? What differentiate actually good idea from great idea when you see the different type of companies? This is the first one. And also, I hope maybe most of you noticed that I think this is the first startup with the Kazakh founders when TMT invested is one feet.
Yeah,
I think
you're right.
All of so we'll be happy to hear your thoughts, why you chose this company, and how the story goes.
Okay, so what's the difference between a good idea and a great idea? So I saw a lot of good ideas, a lot more bad ideas, of course, a lot of good ideas and some great ideas. So for me, the difference is good idea for a startup. If you mean a good concept, good business model, and so on and so forth, it's something just successful. So it may be locally successful on its market, create something new, maybe acquired by something, maybe become a unicorn, and so on and so forth. So such as a kind of successful story. But sometimes there are great ideas. Great idea is something that creates it can potentially create new markets, new entities. For example, we all know blockchain. Blockchain is a great idea, in its essence. And it created cryptocurrencies. It created crypto industries, the greatest thing. I think the total potential of a blockchain is still unexplored because we don't use widely smart contracts, for example, and so on and so forth. So, for example, I don't know, electric vehicles, great idea, another great idea. And it creates industry of, let's say, production of batteries, new battery technologies, implementation of artificial intelligence, objects recognition, and so on and so forth. So new industries around it. Now we have another great idea is, okay, let's call it ChatGPT in its realization, but yeah, artificial intelligence, generative IT. We must talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we couldn't avoid it.
Okay.
Generative AI will create new industries, not the AI products themselves, but the effect of their implementation. For example, new jobs, new education processes. Maybe, okay, we all understand that generative AI will create a lot of deep fakes, and we need to regulate it somehow and to understand what is a deepfake and what is an original, and you may work in this new industry, for example. So for me, yeah, the difference is the great idea is not alone. The great idea comes with consequences, like an explosion. And when it explodes, a lot of new entities creates around it. So probably something like that.
Okay. Good. And how about OneFit? Was it a big idea? That's why you invested?
Yeah. So about OneFit? One of the maybe more conceptual big idea of modern venture for me, it's a transformation from quantity. You all know the venture formula, burn as much as you can to grow fast and so on, to quality. And now we see, all events in the world created some crisis and so on. Investors become more skeptical, less positive with 50x IRR, no more, luckily. And now the venture mindset transforms from just a quantity to grow fast to a quality, to build business, to build a real business. And surprisingly, a real business must be profitable. Just a few startups understand it. And OneFit was one of those guys who really understand it really deeply. And when I met with them first time, I was amazed. Okay, super smart guys. They created a real business, a really growing venture business on their own money. And okay, they're still unfunded. It's a good opportunity. I cannot lose it. And what I like in the team is their approach. So the guys are super smart. They always calculate before do something. You know, it's quite a rare approach in startups. So when you're a startup, you got a lot of investors' money. You can try. You can burn them there, try something new. And as a result, mostly you have empty pockets and a lot of enthusiasm in your eyes.
So data-driven approach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Data-driven approach. Yeah. So that's what I really value in them. And yeah, they created their concept. For example, last year, Murat told me, Levan, we want to just increase prices 2 times. I said, you're crazy, guys. No, we calculated. So we will, lose some clients, but the total unit economy will be much, much better. And they did it, and the result was totally as they predicted. So their unit economy is amazing right now. So yeah, that's what I really love in them. And to be honest, that's what I really love in many projects from Kazakhstan. I noticed several guys today, and on the digital bridge in September, yes, I met several companies who just earn, let's say, 30,000, maybe 50,000 a month, US dollars, and they burn 0. I asked why, because, you know, we didn't have investments and so on and so forth. And, you know, guys, it's one of the biggest advantages of your region. You are not spoiled with a lot of free money.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, actually, this is how it works here, right? I think because of a lot of, we talk about the SVB, all this stuff happening in VC, right? When now the investors look at the, not just revenue, but the real numbers, right? What is no, the GMV, let's say, how you earn, how much you earn, right, today. And actually, we always say to our international partners, investors, this is our differentiation. Our guys try to earn money from the first month, that's it, since there's a lack of funding. Thanks a lot. And actually, this is the case with OneFeed, I suppose. I remember that Murad said, we didn't try to really find something where you have to put a lot of R&D or stuff. We tried to find something which is big and which we can do, which we can implement. Good, thanks a lot. So my next question is Kadirjon. Kadirjon, now you live in Europe, but you're originally from Uzbekistan. You really invest a lot in Uzbekistan. So I got 2 questions. The first one, actually, I would love to, so the audience will hear your story maybe shortly about your first startup, and you launched it in 2016. I'm not sure that so many people actually understood what is going on, right? When you launched the startup in Uzbekistan in 2016, you sold it, you made an exit. And yeah, what are the prospects of Uzbekistan ecosystem? And I remember that we talked yesterday shortly. You have your own 3 or some number of big ideas that you think are suitable for our market. Yeah.
Yeah, the startup that you mentioned was a food delivery startup, and Max here was actually a judge in the pitch competition. Believe it or not. It was a Eurasia Mobile Challenge. We were the first technology startup.
He said yes or no? I mean,
he said yes. Yeah.
Okay.
He was nice. Yeah, he was nice.
Okay.
He's a nice guy in general. So we were the first tech startup out of Uzbekistan to win in the pitch competition. We were very happy and very proud. It was good PR. But that was one of the lessons learned. Winning in a pitch competition doesn't mean anything, guys. I mean, I have to disappoint you. You know, it's actually delivering on the metrics. You know, it's the sales, it's the revenue, it's the growth that really matters. But anyways, it was good experience. It was a successful experience in the sense that it was a good learning curve because we started when there was no ecosystem, when there were no venture financing. I invested my own money, so it's even better learning experience because of that. So I was a co-founder and the investor. So, but yeah, since then the ecosystem has developed significantly. Now there are local venture funds. There are a lot more investors, and I've been getting proposals from some of the Kazakhstan-based, Almaty-based venture capital funds, which here the ecosystem is much more developed and you have more money available for startups, but sometimes not enough projects, is to take actually money from them and manage the money for them because we have the pipeline. So one of the funds told us, you know, we'll give you 1 million. Can you make around $50,000 investments in a startups? Because first of all, the prices are not as high as in Kazakhstan, the valuations. Here, because you have a lot of money rushing for projects, the founders, they've increased the prices. And there are a lot of good, sound projects actually in the country. And that's I mean, answer your first question. And in terms of big ideas, actually, it's a big idea which is raison d'être for our fund, which I believe over the next 20 years will see historically unprecedented growth in the personal incomes of the population in the Central Eurasia. Again, this is not my original idea. This is many people know. If you looked at the slide that David showed in terms of the per capita income in the region, I think now we reach the momentum with so many reforms taking place in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan and some of the other countries, a lot of dynamism that 30 years were really good, and actually Kazakhstan is one of the examples. If you look at the per capita GDP, Kazakhstan is one of the highest per capita GDPs in CIS, same in Azerbaijan. Well, Turkmenistan was also there, but I think it's a statistical error, David, sorry. No, I mean, on paper it is, but as a population, I don't think they really feel it. So, but I think we will see a real growth in per capita income over the next 20 years, and how we can benefit from that as investors. We know that historically the consumer sectors are the ones that benefit the most. Those are the industries where we want to invest. So the second question is, how will that happen? What will enable this growth in the per capita income? I don't think it will become from bigger grain fields or cotton fields, more people being involved in picking cotton. It's going to be with more people getting involved in technology. And this is what this conference is about. So I'll bring you a very simple example how people from very poor areas in the countryside are starting to earn money with minimum starting point is by becoming sellers on e-commerce platforms. And this is great opportunity also for working moms, you know, for women, especially in the countryside because there aren't that many opportunities. This is great opportunity for people with disabilities by becoming a seller in one of the e-commerce, and we've seen it in China as well. Because you could be the best craftsman and you can produce the best crafts, but it doesn't mean you're a great seller. So now there's this huge movement going on. Another, I think, source of value creation that's going to bring to increase of income is the interconnectivity within the region. You know, this event is a great example also. We're here in Almaty, which is, you know, a hub for finance, for technology, not just in Kazakhstan, but in Central Asia. And we're getting together by ourselves. We don't need China to get us together. We don't need US, we don't need Europe. We're getting together ourselves. So I think opening up of the borders, increasing interconnectivity and in exchange of ideas, for example, flow of capital. I work with a lot of Kazakh investors who are looking into opportunities in Uzbekistan, in Tajikistan, otherwise. So you have some places where you have excess of capital, you have some places where you have a lot of projects. I think that's going to create a lot of wealth within the region, and you know, we can all of us can benefit from that, definitely.
Great. Thanks, Kadirjon. Actually, by the way, about the integration and Uzbekistan is rocketing really. I got several meetings simply with some investors, institutional one, and they don't invite us to come to Kazakhstan, they invite us to come to Tashkent. Yeah, so I meet them there, and we talk about Central Asia for sure, but yeah, we meet there. Good, thanks a lot. Hugh, question for you. You're dealing with the investment immigration, you're a consultant, you're leading the company, right? So can you actually tell us more what it is? I suppose that it will be interesting to hear. And also I really was struck what you said at the beginning. Can you apply the program that you have, like where our, let's say, startups, our companies, where and how and what are the main things to think of before scaling, before migrating as a founder, let's say? Yeah.
Okay, so just a few words, and this time I won't stand up. So the business is predicated on having a government wishing to fulfill its foreign direct investment policy by having a residence, or in some cases a citizenship program, which accepts people for residence or citizenship on the basis of making an investment. Generally speaking, those investments fall into different categories, none of which, generally speaking, relate to VC. But for the record, one is making a contribution. The next would be a passive investment in something rather dull. The next one might be in real estate. Again, nothing to do with VC or anything like that. And this has been a business which has really grown over the last 15 to 20 years. I won't dwell on all of them, but it's interesting to know that there are approximately, let's say, 110 or 115 countries which have some form of investment migration. Now, here in Kazakhstan, you have the International Tax Residence Program, which is what I shall be learning about and talking a bit about next week in Astana. But the other ones which get closest to this topic is, if you like, innovators investments. And there are probably 4 or 5 different countries, one of which is the UK, for example. The UK used to have a residence program which is just fulfilled by an investment of £2 million in UK gilts. I mean, that is not going to get any country rich. It's actually just a transfer of funds and does not create any economic activity. So they've seen the lights and they realize that actually what they need to have is people who are willing to go and live and learn in the UK and to set up a business for about £200,000. So that becomes a bit more reasonable. But there are usually, in that sort of program, there are conditions. And it depends what they are, and depends where you are in the world. It might be that you have to employ people. If you're employing people and you are starting up something which has only got small capitalization, it's quite a risk if you're actually coming from somewhere else, where you already have responsibilities and business to run. So we do, as Henley Partners, we do the UK investor visa, startup visa. And if anybody wants to come and ask me, I'll remind myself what the other countries are, but I guess there are about 4 or 5. But they're not, if you like, totally greenfield sites with people coming to say, I've got this idea, which I think is fantastic, but actually requires a different type of risk appetite and different sums of money over the course of time. I hope that answers your question.
By the way, does Henley Partners have any more kind of short-term plans here in the region?
Yeah, so as a firm now, we are in about over 40 places around the world. It does take a bit of time to know where you're going to be, and a lot of it is a function of what does the government want in the destination where you are planning to go. Because it could be inbound investment, or it could be outbound business of people who wish to go elsewhere. And that actually makes a difference to some of the governments that you might be talking to. My particular role, my main role there, is actually talking to governments and helping them set up programs or review existing programs to make them better. And that's also very much part of it. And it would be great, actually, if there was one which had VC as one of the qualifying investments.
Okay. Thanks a lot. We actually run out of time. So let me just ask one question, and I would love to ask you to make it kind of short but practical. We have startups here, and everything we say, even there's no so many people here, it's recorded. So imagine the startup is in front of you now, any startup, the startup founder. So the question is, just give one advice, how to find this big idea worth chasing. Advice for the founder. Yeah, it's good. We got a lot of concepts covered. We don't need to always go to the obvious thing, right? We have to look at the trends. What is next? Since venture is about what? What I usually say, we are paying money for future, right? So basically, innovations change a lot. So one advice for the startup, how to find the big ideas worth chasing. So Levin, if you can, we can start from you.
So probably I would advise them to plan all stages of development of their company since the beginning till the end. So if you want to build some product and something, so just imagine that you're starting here and you're ending with being a multi-corn or being sold to, I don't know, Google or something like that. And just plan the effect of implementation of your technology and product, what markets. And you understand, okay, this idea is not big enough, but this idea may work globally.
So it's more about long-term vision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, be prepared. Cool, thanks. David? What will be your advice?
So I think there are a handful of individuals who are in this part of the world who have talents or, software code or something which is globally exportable. And for those few individuals, I think you can aspire to build something global from here. I think most of the startups that will survive and prosper will focus on the local market opportunity, either Kazakhstan or Central Asia. And so I would encourage all these people to look at their own country, both the nice, fancy, rich parts like where we are today and also some of the less prosperous parts of the country. What do people need there? What will make their lives better? And Gojek has had a long, complicated story of ups and downs, but the basic idea was that traffic in Jakarta was the worst in the world, and it was absolutely miserable to try to go anywhere ever. And it was a brilliant idea. We went on to get into digital banking and have lots of other things that were other ideas. But this was a highly local, specific problem. And there's a nice story about Uber, who he was trying to come home from a party and he couldn't get a taxi, and that was his idea. So look at your own lives, look at your friends' lives, look at the lives of your countrymen who are not as prosperous as you. What are the real problems there? And I think based on 10 minutes here, eGov is an interesting situation, because I think there are challenges in dealing with the bureaucracy here. So working on that, if I were Kazakh, I would be interested in that.
Okay. Thanks a lot, David. Yeah, Hugh?
Yeah. So mine is slightly the reciprocal of our first responder on this one, because I like to work at things from the back end. So if an innovator thinks that his product is worth so much in 5 years' time because he's done all the work, the question would be, what would he need to have spent in order to get something worth that sum of money, at the required sum of money at the end? Because then he's got to build in dilution, the different fundraisers and the costs of actually running the operation, as well as all the development costs. So in other words, go into this with your eyes open as best you possibly can and take good advice as to how it should be structured.
Good. Got it. Thank you, Max.
Yeah, well, so I had a few minutes to think, which is, of course, a great competitive advantage here on ideas. I think it's contrarian. I think that in life we should be very opportunistic with many things. Ideas are not one of those things. I think that we should be, when I look back on my own startups, 2 of them, when I look back at the cool stories that I've seen in my portfolios or the founders that I've met, in so many years of doing this, I think that when it comes to the idea that you want to work on, that's where you want passion, right? It has to be something passionate. And look, if that idea is something that can theoretically, hypothetically become a so-called unicorn, whatever that means, then so be it. And that's amazing. If that idea will lead you to run an absolutely wonderful neighborhood chocolate store, or I don't know, something that's absolutely not scalable, something that, TechCrunch will never write about, but it's something that you will do with great, fervor and passion, and it still becomes an amazing business. Because if things work out, everything becomes an amazing business. So I think that following your passion, like I always see this, and when I talk to founders, I always see whether there is that spark in their eyes or there isn't, and you better have it. I think because otherwise it's not. Life is short. You can do other things. Do something where there's passion. So.
Good. Thanks. Just to add, there's always a term, you are the marathon runner or you're a sprinter? Yeah. Okay, thanks. John?
Yeah, my answer is going to be very short because it's the same as Max, actually. I think I truly believe that you got to do what you love so that you can love what you do. And as you're pursuing your passion, I think if you're good at it, earlier or later, you will stumble on into something that might become into something big, because we've seen so many pivots in great startups where they, Airbnb and some of the other stories, it started with something else, but then because they were so passionate about the problem that they were solving, they're good at it, they actually ended up building unicorn companies. So yeah, it's the same thing. You have to follow your passion, first of all, I think, and then yeah.
Got you. Thanks a lot. Well, actually, I'm not sure that we have time for questions from the audience, but thanks a lot, gentlemen, for such a great discussion. Oh, we got one? Can we? I don't see the... Let's have only one. Есть вопрос, да? Okay, just maybe one. Sorry. It's good that there's a question. Okay.
Hi everyone. It seems like we have time for a Q&A session. Thank you. It was really insightful and great session. with the tech crunch affected with AI and other technologies, the venture capital, we are first to react. There are many trends which are transforming not only the classical, just like, you know, classical center, classical business, I mean, traditional businesses, but also the venture capital. For instance, a lot of green tech startups, they are avoiding the venture stage and they're going directly to the pre-IPO, for example. Do you see something which will completely change and affect our sector? Maybe some big ideas or big disruptions. Thanks.
I have a very simple and partial answer to this. One thing that I will think will happen is that if everything goes well, venture capital will commoditize and it will become like private equity. So, and I think in Europe we already see the beginnings, and in the United States, by the way, as well, of this. That, you know, once you have a lot of innovation happening, this is a normal law of economics, by the way, right? Once a lot of innovation happens and more capital flows into innovations, then you will see that the rounds will get smaller, the returns will get lower, but much more frequent, much more certain. And investing in innovation is something that any person can do, will be able to do, just like investing on the stock market. You know, and that in the end, the stock market also started as venture capital back in the day, and now it's just the stock market, right? So this is what will happen, and this is pretty big, and if it happens, I think we're very lucky.
Any? Yeah, please, go ahead.
Specifically from a Central Asia perspective, I really want to make a push for the capital market here. Because relative to the size of these economies, the capital market is still really small. And I'm not sure exactly why that is. I know there's some regulatory things and there are probably some unfortunate history and so forth. But for this ecosystem to really achieve what Southeast Asia has achieved, we're going to have more of an equity market culture. And I think that will happen when inflation comes down, but it's going to take a while.
Okay. It's kind of broad why it's so. I mean, yeah, we can discuss it later on the stage. Okay, any guys, anyone would love to add? Okay. So, yeah. So, again, gentlemen, thanks a lot. I think it was a great discussion. Even, yeah, we run out of time, but a lot of insights, a lot of experts' opinions. I hope that our audience will reflect on it. And I think our session was also a big idea. And yeah, let's hope that next year, when we meet, it will be more big ideas coming from our region. And again, since we are the last session, I would love to, yeah, I think you will join me. I would love to thank all of you. It will be closing remarks now, but thanks all of you for joining us today. And I hope that we did a great job with guys, just to make it good as the last part. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Photo there? Let's take a photo, yeah.
So, okay, time for making pictures. I want to thank with this session, big investment ideas worth chasing. Thank you to CEO of Most Ventures, manager partner of Most Holding, Alim Hamitov. Also to our distinguished guests, Vice Chairman of Henley Partners, Hью Morsхед, founder and principal of the Penataran Group, Дэвид Халперт, partner Vitosha Venture Partners, Макс Гурвиц, investment director TMT Investments, Леван Кавтарадзе, founding partner and CEO in Algorithm Capital, Kadirjon Norov. Thank you very much, dear ladies and gentlemen. I have a few announcements for you right now. Дорогие друзья, уважаемые участники, уважаемые гости, уважаемые спикеры, насыщенный, интересный, богатый на события и на очень полезный контент знакомства и Network Day сегодня у нас произошел. И в завершении я бы хотел еще раз то, о чем мы говорили в самом начале, пригласить вас уже всех на следующий форум Дату мы уже знаем, это 7 июня 2024 года, южная столица Казахстана, город Алматы. Я так понимаю, что по этому QR можно отдельно купить early bird tickets, и я не знаю, остались они еще или нет, но во всяком случае проверьте. Так что до встречи на CEVF 2024. Меня зовут Серик Акишев, и мы с вами не прощаемся. Всем большое спасибо.